Hello everyone, my name is Steven Zapata. I'm a concept artist, illustrator, online art teacher, and former instructor at Art Center College of Design. I would like to introduce you to my new drawing course, Form from Imagination, a course designed to help you draw with confidence from your mind. Maybe you want to be a professional illustrator or designer, maybe you want to be a master with a pencil, or maybe you just want to be the best artist that you can be. Beautiful goals, but it's not always clear how to improve the work that you do from imagination. Over the past 6 months, I've taken all of the little eurekas, tips, and essential exercises that gave me confidence drawing from my mind and compiled them into a sequential course. We start with the absolute foundations, covering the scientific nature of light and shadow, how to hatch, how to create flat tones, how to render spheres and cubes, and step by step, we move through combined shapes, complex shapes, organic shapes. We cover how to simplify extremely complex subjects like the head into basic shapes so that you can handle them more easily from your head. We look at how to understand and treat details. And by the end of these 14 chapters with over 50 video lessons, you'll be ready to do complex designs from your mind with fidelity and energy. And all the demos are done in pencil on paper, so you can do all of the assignments even if you don't have a fancy digital art setup. But I also have demos, instructions, and modifications to the assignments for those who do want to do them digitally. Here's how it works. Go to formfromimagination.com and sign up for the course. Download the assignment book and start watching the lectures. Do the assignments at your own pace. Take your time with them and use this self-study to develop your patience. When you're done, post your assignments in the exclusive community hub, and I'll personally critique your work with drawovers, diagrams, and advice. I want you to know, this course is no joke just because it's online. It is challenging content, and it is more complete than it would be if I was teaching this class at an art college as I have before. If I was teaching this class in person at Art Center today, I would just play these videos in class, knowing full well that they're the most concise, focused, edited, step-by-step way to convey the material. So I'm serious when I say, this course isn't just a substitute for a college-level course, it's better than a college-level course. And you don't have to pay thousands of dollars per credit and wind up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So thank you for checking out the course, thank you for watching this and for your support, and thank you for drawing and making your artwork. The world needs it. I'll see you soon.
What up? What up? Oh, I'm sending the sweet what up to all of my streaming viewers. I'm sending the sweet, cosmic, global, absolutely dominant, absolutely profound, absolutely undeniable what's up to my stream viewers. Dude, Matt, that is to say, reaching for divine in the chat, is correct. New Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree story trailer dropped 10 frickin' minutes ago. I gotta watch that. We'll watch that in a few minutes here on stream. Let me make sure the audio works. Can you guys hear me okay? And we won't watch it yet, but let me just make sure my desktop audio is going through.
Peggy 16.
Yep. Peggy 16. Who's Peggy?
Peggy 16.
Let me put that a little louder.
Peggy 16.
Could you guys hear that Peggy 16 clearly? Prepare to lose your mind, Steven. It's so good. I bet. Dude, but you guys have heard me on stream saying that I'm gonna have to, I got so much stuff on my plate right now that I'm gonna have to wait to play the DLC. So this is gonna kill me, man. This is dangerous hype here. I've already had to make peace with myself and my heart that, you know, I thought the gods had sent me a sign because the Elden Ring DLC was coming out on my birthday. And now I think that it is instead a cruel omen from the gods. Because I'm looking at what's on my plate, I'm looking at how far June 21st is, and I'm like, no, I think instead the gods are taunting me. Because I got a lot of discipline, I got a lot of willpower, it's true. But if the Elden Ring DLC is on my PS5, I will play it. So that's a problem. That's a problem. Gabuda says stream may not be suitable for all viewers. Peggy 18. Yeah. Jim Wool, hello. Average. Tet. Nihilation. Yes, people saying yes, they can hear the Peggy 16 good. Hello, Aki. Nihilation Reverse. Best online art teacher ever. You're goddamn right. Average Monkey Juice. Gabuda Ichamuda Karim. Wally Arne. I think that's everybody for now. We're early here. We'll wait for a few more people to file in before I watch the stream. Let's do a quick sketch. Quick sketch. We're definitely not gonna throw a scribble and then render for 3 hours as usually happens on this stream. Oops. Almost alt-tabbed out of my whole life. I'm alt-tabbing out of my whole life. I don't know why, but I feel like drawing a, hold on, I forgot to check something. Let me just get that out of the way. Nope, not what I thought. All right. Average says, if Stephen was around in ancient Colombia, I believe he would have been a shaman of some description. I was around in ancient Colombia, and I was a shaman. And I still am. The archetypes are alive in me. What was I saying? I feel like drawing some sort of a frog, turtle, little gremlin demon creature thing. I don't know why. We'll see what we get up to here. Little river monster, maybe. If you trace my genetic lineage back any distance, I'm pretty sure you'll find me on top of a pyramid sacrificing somebody. I think that's definitely in my genetic lineage. And I have to admit, it's not the coolest thing I've ever done. Fix my microphone here, sorry. Sorry if that's super loud when I move my mic. I just want to apologize to everybody who believed in me for sacrificing those people to the sun god on the top of that step pyramid. I got swept up in the moment. I got swept up in the eclipse. I got swept up in my role as High Vizier, emissary to Quetzalcoatl. The warrior god king who does rule over our sweet, sweet city influenced me. But I should have been strong enough to know you shouldn't make blood sacrifices to the sun god on an equinox. I hope you'll understand that my family and I need to take some personal time to recover from this now. Goodbye. That's the end of this conference. Sketchbook, May 21st. Shirk, hello. What's good, Goblin fam? Says Lack Assalam. Oh. Katie, New York City 1 says, morning, I'm practicing. Hit the likes, everyone. You're definitely on top of the totem pole. Wow. Wowed. Preferred sacrificial animal, goat, lamb? You got to make proper hecatombs to the worthy gods, man. The thigh of a fatted calf. That's the only way to go. It's like, if it's not proper hecatombs, are you even sacrificing? It's like, don't sacrifice less than 100. The gods ain't here for that. Hello, Emma Blomskog. Are we being blessed with a goblin today? Yeah, this is like some sort of turtle river goblin kind of a guy. Little river spirit type dude. Or based on the trees I'm drawing right now, swamp spirit. It's hot in here today, so I have the fan going. I hope it's not too loud for you all in the background. I've recently started doing digital art with Procreate and got the hang of it after a week. Do you have any tips for digital? Tips for digital? Use all of its advantages. It's like if you're doing digital, use digital. You know, transform a lot, do layer modes a lot. Like, why not? Often right at the beginning, it's nice for people to sort of limit their digital stuff while they get used to it to kind of the way they work for traditional. Just because it sort of lets them make a one-to-one connection easier. But I don't know, after a couple months of that, I think you should just kind of let it off the reins and explore what makes digital digital as opposed to a simulation of traditional in some sense. Like for me, one of the big things is transforming as I draw in digital. I'm very fast with it. Like I'll sketch, but then as I'm sketching, it's like, oh, that arm's just a little too long. I'll just grab it super quick. I've got everything on shortcuts. Oh, whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. I'll transform it a little shorter. Done. Keep going. And I'm like, even on a rough sketch, I'm doing that constantly, making things longer, shorter, things like that. And I'll actually keep that correction because it kind of supports the perspective. Yes, yes, yes. Painting dirty water is really fun because it has, you can like do any value shape with it that you need for the composition because it has both reflective qualities and opaque qualities. So you can make it dark where it's good compositionally to have it dark. You can make it light, good where it's good compositionally to make it light. Dirty water is a very useful tool in a composition. And it also holds shadows. Like if water is perfectly clear, like you see how this guy's little hiding head here casts a shadow from the raking sunset light. In clear water, that wouldn't really happen because the light just goes right through the water. It would cast a shadow on the floor, like the sand underneath the water, if you could see that. But the surface of the water wouldn't really hold a shadow if it's perfectly clear water. But in dirty water, it's filled with sediment that makes it opaque. So it's translucent. You can see through it. It's reflective on top because of the reflectivity of the water. And it also holds shadows because the sediment will catch shadows. Hi, Stephen. Do you think aliens know karate? I can guarantee it. I can guarantee it. Because when I was abducted by aliens, the very first thing that they wanted me to do was don a white gi and teach them very particular katas from karate, certain positions that allow for the ideal modes of self-defense against anybody, including Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners. Karate easily defeats a jiu-jitsu practitioner if you actually know what you're doing in the way that I do. And it was a little difficult for them, They were typical grays. The ratios of the limbs are kind of difficult, kind of off based on when compared to the tiny little pear body in the middle. But, we made some adjustments, some tactful adjustments to the positions. And before long, they were kicking each other's little asses. I gave one of them a yellow belt before I left. It was pretty great. It was pretty great. I like to lay in the initial shadow shapes with the solid airbrush. No opacity jitter. But yes, size jitter. I don't know, I like the sharp little shapes that it makes. Well, golly gee, I don't know. I just like the sharp little shapes that it makes. Forces you to make a definitive statement. And there's nothing wrong with that. There, and there's the whole statement for the picture. There's the whole bones. 20 minutes. Hey, Steven, do you do the red layer to make it easier to shade? That's just how I do a flat for a shape, because it is for shading. Yeah, it locks the transparency, right? So let me just... If I have this shape on its own layer, I can lock it with a tool that most digital painting programs have called alpha lock or lock transparency or preserve transparency. That way it just forces on that layer. I can only color inside the lines within that shape. So that's what made it so easy for me to do that, breaking up the values like that real quick. And I just do it in red because you just need to pick something high contrast, because if I did it in gray, there would be a lot of areas where I can't quite see that I missed a spot, or that I left a hole, or that I'm not really up to the line, or things like that. And clearly I'm not paying very close attention here. I am doing it sloppy, but I'm gonna do a better job if it's a bright red and showing me how solid the mask actually is, as opposed to if it was gray or some other low contrast color like a muddy green or something like that. All right, let's watch the Elden Ring story trailer, because I have not seen it. And I can't wait. You're probably not going to get any commentary from me. I'm just observing. I'm not a reaction streamer, so.
Mikula the Kind spoke of the beginning.
Ooh, yeah.
The seduction and the betrayal.
See what they did there? Yuck.
An affair from which gold arose.
Oh, this is sexy stuff, folks.
And so too was Shadow born.
Is that a gate made out of bodies? Like that? Big fan of that, gotta say.
What followed was a war unseen.
Nice.
One that could never be put to song. A purge without grace or honor. The tyranny of Messmer's flame.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Make it go sideways. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Put them on the pikes. Put them on the pikes.
And so kindly Mikula would abandon everything.
Very kindly, very kindly.
his golden flesh, his blinding strength, even his fate.
They're really making this Mikkel out to be like a Jesus sort of a character.
But we are
A little bit of like a Jesus vibe. Those the new sights of grace, do you think? Ooh, the new gear looking good. My goddamn birthday. My goddamn birthday. Of course it's on my damn birthday. Well, it was pretty cool. We've all got to admit it.
Spoiler warning ahead. For people who either haven't completed
It was pretty cool. I'm really trying to tamp down the hype because I'm really trying to accept the truth that I'm not going to be able to play it on the day it comes out. Also, I'm just saying. Like, I'm just saying. You know, like I've tried to tell you guys over and over again. All of you detractors who don't understand. I've tried to tell you guys that I am in the reference folders of all your favorite creators. That I'm not going to spend time at those companies and doing things when it's like I'm already influencing everything. I mean, the reach that I have, the emails that I get. This was 2 years ago. It's just like, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's like I don't need to work on the games to play games that I designed. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense to people? It's just like I mean, they could email me like the fiery basket on the back of the giant. Like, you could have just emailed me from. Like, you could have just said thanks for the idea. You know, like that's all. We could have just had a quick chat. I'm not gonna be an asshole about it. I'm not gonna charge you much, you know? You could have just hit me up. I mean, how many other things like this come up when you search Holy Infernal Combat? I don't know. Yeah, it was really cool. Matt says, I feel you, Steven. I'll be at a convention in Rhode Island the day it comes out, so I'll have to hide from all social media. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough, you know. It's going to be rough. I'm going to like... Because my original plan was, you know, people were like, Steven, what do you want for your birthday? My original plan was going to be leave me alone. I'm gonna have it pre-downloaded so that when I wake up, it's there. And from sunrise to bedtime, I'm playing the Elden Ring DLC for my birthday. That's what I want to give myself for my birthday. But now I'm accepting the fact that I can't have it. I can't have it. I can't just have it in the house until I'm done with a bunch of stuff I need to do. So I'm going to have a normal birthday, and I'm just going to be like at the bar with people. People be like, hey, Steven, man, good to see you. Happy birthday. I'll be like, I'm just like seeing Mikola's face projected onto their face. I'm like, yep, Gabuda says, I'm in your folders influencing your IPs. That's it, man. That's the truth. Anyone with the opened eye of wisdom to see the truth will see that that is the case. It's spiritual enlightenment. It's like once you see it, it cannot be denied, you know, and then you'll see it everywhere. You'll know, oh, there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there. Oh, that's right. They're all at the studios watching his streams while he works because they love him and respect him and are inspired by him. And then there's just, of course, it influences the decisions because he's making world-class decisions moment to moment. And it all just starts to click. Hold on, I gotta get my YouTube dashboard back up. All right. Does game become less fun when you are involved in the designing making process? No, I think if anything that makes it more fun. Games become less fun because the design for other stuff, you know, bad monetization, bad gameplay. The design doesn't always have anything, doesn't really have anything to do with that. Well, I mean, they go hand in hand, but it's like you can have a game that's awful to play, but it has great design. Whoops, I did this on the wrong layer. Oh, I see. I was wrong about that. The trees are on the same layer as the goblin's lines. Got it. I'm in your folders. We in it. I get a notification every time an art director at a studio screenshots my stream. And it reached a point where I had to turn off those notifications. Overwhelming. It became spam. Steven, you are in my folders? I know. I'm in your folder, I'm influencing your ideas. So, Mikola, like, sacrificed, like, everything. like everything. Mikula, like, had it all going for him? Her? Is Mikula... I don't know what's up with Mikula. Drawing isn't real? Affirmative. I can confirm. It is true. Drawing not being real, confirmed. Vast emptiness. Unfathomable existence. Hello, Sam Lamb. Dear Sam Lamb. Just using a completely solid brush to slug in the values now and draw at the same time. Fast, fast, fast. I couldn't even finish the last VOD before I saw you were live again. I draw so much. I just draw so much. Does this count as mermaid or no? If it ain't a sexy mermaid, it don't count, right? Monstrous mermaids, they don't count. Nobody wants to see that. It's gotta be a lithe, aquatic little thing. Sam says, your visage is glorious, your hair on fleek, it slays, as the children say. Sam, I actually just read an article, a news article, just the other day, saying that now the kids say, you shouldn't say it's on fleek. The kids have passed up a memo. They've said fleek is out. I did not get far enough to find out what has replaced fleek before vomiting. Steven, is this a Shrek ripoff? Yep, just more Shrek fan art from me, as usual. Manuel said, hey, Steven, I watched one of your older videos, and at the end you said that I will draw circles around you. It made me sad because it's true. Well, it is true, but that video is one of my most successful videos, and I think it's specifically because of that vibe. People just love getting talked down to. People just love getting challenged like that. That's one of the few places where I've done that. Just because I saw in that context for that video, it would be wholesome, but I refrain from doing that most of the time because it's just too easy for it to slide into non-wholesomeness. This is the drawing ugly phase. Just ugly, ill-considered marks, not caring. It's like I'm using a Sharpie. I'm just seeking an overall arrangement that communicates form, that seems to capture the lighting direction that I want, lightly respects the laws of physics, lightly now. And I can refine later. I find it's very good to use a crude tool, like a brush that doesn't leave anything too pretty looking for this stage, so that you never quite like the way any part looks, which makes it easy for you to erase it. You know, it just makes you feel like you're not missing out on much. That's very useful at the early stages. If I was using a brush that was too nice, it would leave nice shapes and edges all over the place. And that might slowly start building up, and I might start feeling like, oh, I don't want to get rid of that. That's kind of cute. That's kind of pretty. You don't want that. And these, when you really don't know what you're doing. It'd be different if I had a plan for this already, if I'd already done other sketches. Then I could make it pretty from the get-go. But when you're trying to figure things out, it's often good to just use a brush that makes you feel like, ugh, get this thing out of my face the whole time, you know? Sam Lem says he's moving on from Fleek. Sage Riz, nice. I like that. It seemed pretty off-brand for you, LOL. I mean, it is. I mean, in a sense, it's on-brand because, I mean, I totally meant everything I said in that video, and I decided to put that thing at the end. But it's off-brand in the sense that I very rarely think it's appropriate to frame things in such a way. If you're in an environment that has a sense of wholesome competition, there I think it's fine. If that's already been established, but just winging it out willy-nilly on the internet, a lot of people are just not ready to, the sense of wholesome competition is not there. It hurts their feelings instead. Sends them on spirals. And that I don't like. But in that video, I think it was indeed well placed, because I get comments and messages about that video all the time where people say it really pushed them, made them want to work. And again, that could be bad, but in the context of that video where I spent the previous 15 minutes or so explaining how the actual skills of a professional artist are the skills of reiterating the joy of learning and making sure they're having fun the whole time and all of this. There, I think, with that context established, you could sort of take the competitive urging in a more wholesome way. If that hadn't been there before, things like that would usually do more harm than good. Stephen, have you watched Scavenger's Reign yet? I have not. But it's on the list. I've heard great things. Steven, how many hours are you going to be streaming today? I usually only make it, when I stream around lunchtime, it's usually a couple hours. Just because hunger does assail me at a certain point. Goodbye, Matt. Enjoy your therapy. Goodbye, Lack Aslam. James Ellis says, hi, Stephen. I'm going to be taking your course this summer now that I've graduated from high school. Thank you for providing alternatives to overpriced art schools like SCAD. No problem, James. My pleasure. Thank you for getting the course. You got it. Samuel says, Stephen, I have just one question. Do I, in fact, get the course? You do. You guys reminded me. I need to have my course discount image up. I took it off to watch the Elden Ring trailer. Thanks for that. It's all on sale, folks. It's on sale. These 5 consecutive days of Steven streams will forever be remembered by art historians as the 5 good days. Very true. And the crazy part is there will be more than 5. Sam Lamb says, remember when I swore up and down that sculpting felt more natural to me than drawing? It seems the exact opposite right now, LOL, because my objectives are different. I'm exploring gestures and poses right now. You ever get the weird identity thing in your art where you're like, what gives? I thought I was one thing, but now I'm another? All the time. I get that all the time. Yeah, when your objective changes, you put a completely new lens on everything about art. And so, yeah, you can have total transformations there where one medium doesn't quite fit anymore and another one does. Oscillate back and forth. Also, the practices talk to each other, so your time spent sculpting probably improved your drawing while you were sculpting, or it refined a certain kind of thinking that is now easier when you draw. And so you're also experiencing that, you know, what you're after is more aligned with what drawing offers up, but then also drawing is a little easier at the moment than it has been before. The practices talk to each other. That's so good. I mean, yeah. I mean, they're sharing brain space to some extent, you know, so they're gonna confirm that, yes, figure drawing feels very different for me right now because I can turn the major forms around in my head in a way I couldn't before. Yeah, I mean, it's very one-to-one in that case. Warrington Fieselfeet says, how come sometimes I go weeks without drawing and then I come back to it and I somehow feel better than I was before? People get really worried about resting. I mean, rest works everywhere else, you know? Yeah, like Leela said, rest is really important. You know, rest is important for recovering from an injury, for getting better at certain kinds of exercises or sports. It's like the same goes for drawing. Especially if you have been sort of preventing yourself from resting. then one rest can really just have a noticeable, like, refreshing quality. But really, you should make it a habit to just let yourself regularly rest, if at all possible. I rest a lot these days. Goodbye, Aki. I will see you soon. Back at it again, says Autumn Rose. And Schaefer says, thanks for the free sphere demo. Rendered the best sphere of my life following it. It's on my table now, and I feel like I could grab it. Yes! I'm very glad to hear that. Feel like I need to get the course now. You get the course. I'm glad it helped you. What can I say? I do have the best rare techniques. Are you winning? Are you winning, son? The monster's face kind of looks like my cousin when he asked, "You got games on your phone?" Oh, shit. You guys get canker sores? I get them. I got a pretty bad one, making it a little hard to talk right now. I've gotten them my whole life, ever since I was teeny tiny. They say they just stop one day. I'm waiting on that day. Yes, I got canker sores whenever I have a stress flare-up. I found taking L-lysine as a daily supplement helped mitigate a lot, but not prevent completely. Let me take a note of that. Before that, I basically knew I was going to get a canker sore. Whenever I had a stress period, like a major exam or work deadline, I could reliably count on getting at least 1 or 2 sores. Yeah. Same here. I also get them just from if I bite myself while eating, which sucks. Because I'll just be happily munching on something, and then I'll just kind of like lightly bite the inside of my cheek or my tongue or something like that, and I'll be like, well, there's 2 weeks of canker sore. And like clockwork, I'll get one there. I'm not just a pretty face, Steven, I'm also an Herbalife representative. I've definitely, every now and then I'll bring up canker sores to like a new group of people or something like that, and I'll get like a whole handful of like folksy, crazy remedies for canker sores, inevitably from someone else in the group who also has canker sores, and I try them all. Like, no one has a real answer for this. I need to just try everything that sounds crazy. Maybe one day, one of them will work. There was one time someone in one of those situations, she had a lot of canker sores, and she gave me I forget what it was, or she wanted to give me, she was like a dentist, or like had a friend who was a dentist who hooked her up with these sticks of some chemical, like a hardened stick, like a little tiny stick. And it was like you would stab that into a canker sore and it would give you a chemical burn and chemically burn it shut. And that was the only one that I was ever like, I pass on that one. That one I did not try. Sometimes I get them bad enough though that I think back to that and I'm like, God damn it, I should have taken the sticks. MLK says, do you think art is infinite? I mean, the number of combinations of pixels are finite. Also, the amount of information in the universe is finite. So that means we will run out of art one day, right? If you're asking, if you're asking on that level, like in a very technical sense, is it infinite in that sense? Yeah, I would say no. You know, even in terms of it being sort of constrained by the hard points of the cosmos, even before that, it's like art is an emergent cultural phenomena in this human physiology on this earth at this time with these minds, these interests, these incentives, this sensorium. Like, art is contingent on so many things. It's conceivable to me that there could be an alien species that is similarly advanced, similarly intelligent, more advanced, more intelligent, but because of different conditioning factors, different contingencies, different physiology, different sensorium, that species just doesn't have art for whatever reason. It might just not be compelling. It may not be perceivable in a sense to that species. So it's like, even before is it functionally infinite, it's like, it's more interesting to me that it's contingent. Like, it's feasible to me that if humans were to be extinguished, that could, it's just feasible. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's feasible to me that that would extinguish art, even if there are many other alien life forms on other planets out there. I don't think that's likely, but it's feasible. I think art is kind of a precious thing. You know, your precious human birth allows you to create and experience art. It's not something to be taken lightly, I don't think. Logos is universal and transcendent? Well, it depends what you mean by logos, but off almost any definition, it remains to be seen. I do feel like there's certain things, like, I don't know if what Joseph said about logos, because people define logos in all sorts of different ways, but, you know, for me, I feel like it's conceivable that, for example, insight into no self or emptiness would theoretically be a universal experience of any being that experiences itself to be a self, which I think before language, before physiology, before biology, it's like that's a pretty, I would imagine that has to be quite a common experience for conscious beings of any sort. But again, remains to be seen, right? We only have so many data points here, but it's possible really far out there that, you know, because if there is a universal experience, if it's universal, it has to be accessible here, right? It has to be something that humans can experience. So I do think it's possible that there are universal, spiritual, transcendental, emptying experiences that would be similarly experienced by any being anywhere, but remains to be seen. You can never say anything absolute about that, I don't think. It's just an interesting hypothetical. Goodbye, Sam. And I think that art has so many more contingencies than those other things that we're talking about, that I think it's much more likely that art is not a universal than some of those other things. Hey, Steven, do you have any tips on how to make the most of your practice? I noticed that I'm being consistent, but I feel like I'm drawing just because, you know. Any thoughts? Just because. You feel like you're drawing just because. Do you have any tips on how to make the most of your practice? The number one thing that most people are missing is that they're not doing something that actually feels very important to them. And if they could readjust some things in the practice to really give a shit about the things that they're making, that would automatically solve a lot of problems. You'd be much more interested in your work. You'd be able to spend longer on it. You would be less worried about how people receive it, or like, does it get you a career or something like that? Because there is an inherent like self-actualization quality in the work. That's the number one thing people are missing. And the number one reason they don't do it is because they're afraid. And that fear is usually based on just, you know, there's this sense that it's too risky. Like if they really put their heart into a piece or make it about something, just make it about something squishy and vulnerable within them, that they wouldn't be able to bear it not going well, not coming out right, not being received well. And that's just something you need to get over. I mean, that stuff's just not a big deal at all. Flurinator gives me $5. Thank you so much, Flurinator. Buy another coffee, but don't get a haircut. No, the hair's been trimmed recently, but it's gonna get big again. So long as the weather holds out. And I will get a coffee, oh, I will. Oh, I will. It is possible for me to get sniped by a meteor. It is incredibly improbable though, so I will not care. On a less analogous note, I will care more about that I am drawing the same thing on purpose because I choose to remain in my comfort zone. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Art Gallery of Babel, yeah. Yeah, we're just out there in philosophy land with that discussion. I mean, for all practical purposes, yes, it's obvious that art is infinite. For practical purposes, for this human life, you know, we're not going to be able to mine every possible image, but, you know, I think that's obvious to most people, so that's why we're discussing the farther out implications. I mean, we're artists. We're not very much concerned with the practical, are we? The amount of people that worry about drawing instead of just doing it is alarming. Remove some distractions and get some discipline, with all due respect. I don't know who you're all due respecting, but definitely you got to do it, right? If you're trying to be an artist, if you want to go somewhere with your work, step one is you have to do it. Then once you're doing it though, I think it's fine to be as philosophical and weird as you want. I mean, people these days in our culture, there is a current of people trying to treat art like it's a very workaday kind of a thing, like a craftsman kind of a thing. And that's a game you can play, and I understand why people would fall back on that, again, as sort of to defend themselves from the pain of having very heartfelt things connecting with their work and sort of self-identifying with this thing that's going to go out in the world. There's a lot of good reasons, good incentives to look at it that way, but art just isn't that. It really just isn't. Art is the bohemian, weird, squishy, heartfelt, spiritual thing that everybody else who isn't an artist already thinks it is. You know, it is that. Sometimes it's just too much for us as artists to deal with that, though. So we tell ourselves a little like, I'm just a blue-collar person doing any blue-collar thing. It's the same as if I was making burgers at McDonald's. I just show up and do it. And it's like, well, I'm glad that's helping you this year or these 5 years or this decade. But eventually everybody has to reckon with the fact that, no, that's never what I was doing. What PPI is this? This is like 3,000 pixels on the longest side, I think. What does he eat? Double Downs from KFC. Would you rather be alone in the woods with this guy or a bear? I would rather be alone in the woods with God. I would rather be stripped naked, covered in resin and blood, worshiping the one true Lord. My undying vision quest, babbling, gibbering, shivering in the cold rain falling on my body, his visage there. Our hearts, our experiences, our consciousnesses in perfect communion. Heresy, 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 sweet, sweet heresy. Union, finish, love. The unborn, the unfabricated. The full Monty, the genuine article, gnosis. What tablet you use? This is the Huion Kamvas 4K. I think they only make one 4K one. It's the one I use. I may be wrong about that though. Steven, do you have any tips on posting art online? I always seem to start playing to the gallery when I start posting stuff. How do you not get caught up in chasing the algorithm? You know, to some extent, you might just need to try that in your life for a little bit, and life will educate you. It's all right to go through a phase like that if you have interest in that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not like that isn't a thing artists do. Like, a lot of people do art because they want to get a reaction, you know? I personally have never really had that. I've never done... One of my main motivators for making art has never been getting like energy off of people from it. It's nice when that happens, but it's just not... It's not a major motivator, and even when it is around, I get bored of it really fast. But I think I don't know about atypical there, but I think that being like me is just a subset of artists. And most people, a lot of other artists, that's an important part, and that's just part of the practice for them. That's one of the things they care about, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's a thing to explore if you feel it might be important to you, but eventually, especially if you have any success with it, life will make clear that, oh, this doesn't actually mean anything. You know, it doesn't create satisfaction. I don't know who these people are. There's nothing but reasons not to care, as far as I'm concerned, but a lot of artists would disagree with me. It's the 27-inch, the bigger one. I believe the exact model is in the description of the stream. What's the music? This is, let me check. This is Zombie Raiders by Wave Saver. Thank you, Rip Pup. When are you going to get around to drawing rat creatures crashing hulking enormous diesel cars into one another for pleasure? That is not unlike something I've drawn in the past, but I'll leave it there. Has Zapata ever messed with 3D modeling? Yes. Oh, my sweet girl, how are you? Yes, yes. I know, you're hungry. Actually, let me give you your... I gotta give her her joint supplement. Got a little iced coffee too. A little iced coffee, mate. Is it possible to reach One Punch Man levels of drawing, Senor Steven? Yes. Yes, and you're looking at it. Jesus, almost knocked over my coffee. Steven, are you going to sue me if I'm inspired by your art and then I draw in your style? Yes. Yes, I'm going to sue you. Cease and desist. Stop. You have been found to be in violation of the federal law against using Steven Zapata's art style. Delete your file immediately, or you will be terminated. Delete your file immediately, or you will be terminated. Termination commencing in 3, 2. Gaia Low says, I love you, Steven. I love you. I love you too. I can still feel the love. I can still feel the love. I know, Dingy, I know. How would you render out space in graphite, especially distant stars? Is it possible to do this well? Ooh, that's tough because it's so dark. It requires a lot of patience. You know, darkness takes a long time in graphite. You have to fill in a lot. I would probably use a Pan-Pastel pass as a base. It's just a powdered pastel that you can apply with makeup sponges. I would use that as a base to sort of give me a basic dark tone to work into. It's never going to be perfect. Pan-Pastel doesn't go down nicely. It's just a base. You need to work over the whole area that you put it on. In small areas, it looks quite nice, but on a big area, it's like, it doesn't give you a perfectly flat tone. It gets all splotchy and stuff. So you still need to work into it, but it can be a start. And then I would use the eraser a lot to do the stars. And just a lot of hand drawing, you know. Have you read Berserk, Stephen? Parts of it, yeah. I haven't read the whole thing. I think this was a while ago now. I believe I did read up to the Golden Age, and then I stopped. Like, I didn't finish the Golden Age. I think I probably I watched the movies, that trilogy that is the Golden Age arc, is it? So I think based on the movies, I think I got halfway through in the manga, something like that. I'm not a big comic reader. That's probably the most I've ever read any comic. Besides, I don't know, probably halfway through the Golden Age is still probably as long or longer than like Watchmen or something like that, right? I don't know, is it? I've read Watchmen, I've read V for Vendetta, but besides that, I don't really read comics. It's not my kind of thing. It's not how I like to spend my reading time. I'm new to your channel. What is your advice for someone who wants to make art as a living without Instagram or social media? I know it will take more work and other grassroots methods, I being in the local community, creating a consistent newsletter, trade shows, building trust, but I'm so about the work. Yeah, you can, well, your main money makers there are either going to be selling directly to the consumer, like stickers, prints, things like that, being a fine artist and selling through galleries, or being a studio artist. It doesn't sound like you're talking about working for a studio, so let's take that off the list. But selling straight to the consumer, yeah, go to shows. You know, you'd have to do a lot of shows, I would say. You got to go to a lot of conventions, sell your prints and stuff there. Newsletters are getting very popular now. I mean, they're like having a resurgence. So a newsletter is probably a very good idea. And on the gallery side, that is a much more straight down the barrel path that has been around for a long time. I wouldn't know much to say about that. I'm not a gallery artist, but you know, unlike a lot of other things in art, if you just Google how to get represented by a gallery, you'll get about 800 million articles that will explain things you can do and how to contact them and share your work and all that. Most galleries have some sort of submission link on their page. So if you just find a gallery that you feel jives with your work, you can look for the submission link on their site if they accept submissions and start there. Going to Lightbox this year, yay or nay? Yeah, I plan on it. I should probably get my tickets, right? I'm gonna wait a little bit though, because I'll see if I can get on a panel. Because then if I get on a panel, my ticket gets comped. I was on panels at the show last year, so my tickets were comped, and that was very nice. Because I live in New York, so it's an expensive plane ticket, and hotels around there are frickin' expensive. So it's an expensive trip. All right, basic indication of the forest background. Do I kind of like, you know, I always ask myself, this is something you guys can, this diagnostic I'm about to show you is gonna brutalize this picture because I was sort of just sketching. I wasn't trying to, I did it again. I'm 3 digressions deep now, what I'm trying to say. But first, let us just note that I did it again. I said I would do sketches. And like usual, I just doodled something and rendered it for 2 hours, which is weird because I never do that on my own. I don't really do that on my own, but on stream it happens so naturally. But because I wasn't planning on turning this into a whole composition, I didn't run this diagnostic throughout the process, but this is one that you can run for yourselves if you want to do pictures like this. What do I mean by pictures like this? Anything vaguely cinematic or even splash arty or something like this. This is a diagnostic I give my students a lot. Check your quadrants. That is to say, does each quarter of the picture, you see I divided my picture into 4 parts, right? Does each quarter of the picture tell a different story? If each quarter of the picture tells a different story, that usually makes the picture feel full. So this one's a little light, but there's still a little bit something different happening in each quarter. So in the top right quarter, we have the 2 characters' faces, right? And even though this character takes up the whole center mass, at least you get this, this is a different story. So it's like there's more than one of them. Maybe they're ganging up on you, something like that. Here, we have the story of the sunset, right? So that's not present in, or literally the sun seeing like into the light source. We don't have that in any of the other parts. Here, we have this nice moment of the cast shadows from the trees having different penumbras and overlapping each other and things like that. I think that looks kind of nice. That's like, that whole quadrant is taken up by that story. This quadrant, I would say, basically fails the test. There's not much going on down there. You could maybe say it tells the story of the hands of the thing, but it's pretty light. If we were to add something like, oh, spooky skeleton, oh, they killed a man, oh my God. How could it happen? I'm so scared. Oh, I got 8. Oh my God. Something like that. That would start to introduce a new story in, you're not cramming it in, it's quadrants, right? So the stories are not super crowding the picture, but that means that content-wise, that gives the eye of the viewer a reason to circulate content-wise. Now that's different from giving the eye of the viewer a reason to circulate composition-wise, right? Because you can also, there's different kinds of circulation. So I could try to circulate the eye by like, let's say, just because I don't have time to come up with a better solution, by like really aggressively curving this tree, right? Instead of having it be straight. And then I could really curve a tree over here so that you sort of get these flowing lines that sort of rotate the eye and drag it around the picture, right? That's shape design dragging the eye. But what I'm talking about here is a different thing. The eye doesn't just pay attention to compositional little tricks. The eye is sophisticated in interaction with the rest of the brain, and a lot of the brain is just straight up interested in content. So what I just described about the quadrants is different content. Like I said, different stories being told. That circulates the eye as well. The brain has a desire to understand things about an image, to understand narrative implications about an image. So even before literal line and shape-based compositional tricks, raw content can force the eye to circulate as well. And obviously I am going to use the skeletons in the bottom right. How'd I get on that? Did someone even ask about that? Let's paint the Gallo a little bit. Maybe the monster just took a dookie that could fill in the quadrant. Oh! Not really super useful yet. We can add that later. Jovika says, hey Steven, any advice for keeping back and hands healthy except exercise? I know hunching is inevitable, but a lot of people around me have spine injuries. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm good at that. I mean, I'm young enough that I would say I haven't really been challenged yet. And I wouldn't say I'm nailing it. I don't think my posture is great. I don't think I do. Recently, my wrist started hurting more, which is really brand new for me, but I've basically reversed that completely by doing, there's common warm-ups you do in yoga where you do table position. That's like you're on your knees and on your hands. And there's a variation where you flip your hands back like this and you're in tabletop, but your hands are backwards like this and you're pressing down into the ground with your wrists. I started doing exercises like that, holding tabletop and sort of swaying on my wrists. And that basically fixed the wrist pain that I had started feeling, but I got on it fast. And, you know, I assume other things are gonna come up. I would focus those questions more on, you know, apart from drawing, just ergonomics and back health people and things like that. For the back, I personally really feel like from what I've experienced and from what I hear from friends and stuff like that, you know, preventative should probably just be squatting. You know, like apparently the best thing for your spine is just making the muscles that are holding it up as strong as possible. And I went through a period where I was doing quite a bit of like squatting in my weightlifting regimen. I don't really do that anymore now, but I do remember noticing that my back ached a little less. My back ached noticeably less in that period. But again, I just, you know, I generally don't feel a lot of pain. I haven't really been challenged with a physical ailment from drawing and sitting yet, but I expect the day will come. I am not immune to this. You know, I'm as susceptible as anybody else. Sorry, I had to get a paper towel. Condensation from my iced coffee is really pooling on my desk. Let me just poke at a gradient map for a second. How long have we been on? 2 hours. The gradient map is probably not going to look good here because I painted all the forms ugly, as I explained, with the solid brush. So the transitions aren't really there to make the gradient map look nice, but let's poke a little. Let's see, it's sunset, so let's put... Which one am I holding? Shadow. Let's put shadows down here. Oops, I did it backwards. Let's do that. Let's put shadows somewhere down here. I don't think I have a good grip on the light sources here yet for the gradient map to work. It's all getting mixed up. No, there's too many materials in this one for the gradient map to work, I think. I'd have to color it. I'll have to color it myself. Do 30 push-ups for us, Steven? Well, then I won't want to draw anymore, no way. Then I'll be all sweaty. Then I definitely won't want to draw anymore. I hate feeling sweaty. Gabuda says, how do you work as a professional while still keeping your passion for art intact so it doesn't turn into just another job that you end up resenting? That mostly comes down to insisting on getting an art job that you really, really like. And it does come down to insisting. The artistic brain is often inclined to guilt trips, and people can just waste years and years of their life thinking, oh, well, you know, I shouldn't be complaining. I shouldn't be depressed about this because my life is so good. I just get to make art all the time and other people would kill to be in my situation. Blah, 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 blah. A bunch of shit that doesn't matter and clearly isn't working, and they will just get stuck doing, they're not even saying that to other people. You know, it's like it's this meme in their head that is literally affecting what they're going to do in their life, and it doesn't externalize in anything but them being trapped in a job they don't want to do. So you just need to at a certain point, like accept that it's, how to put this? A lot of people really recoil from this stuff just because of social conditioning, but like you just need to accept like it's not good enough for you. It's like, oh, does that make you feel like you're pretentious or like you want too much or something? Like, too bad. Yeah, you're a normal person. You're not perfect. You're kind of a piece of shit. Probably everybody on this stream is a little bit of piece of shit. You have to just swallow your pride, your false humility, and just say, well, I guess it's really not good enough for me. And then just insist on doing a job that you actually like. And that's probably going to be really hard to get. It's going to be a lot of work to get. It's going to be a lot of effort to set it up. Or yeah, go ahead and suffer through something that nobody cares that you're suffering through it and you're not even enjoying it so that you can feel like a nice, humble little saint or something like that. I don't know. All right, let's smooth out some transitions here. How could you sweat from push-ups? I sweat at the drop of a hat. I am such a sweaty dude. It's very annoying. I know you're hungry. I know you're hungry. She saw that I almost went to grab her and she fled immediately. She doesn't like being on stream. That was very cute. H. Willis says so many streams. I've been trying to save them up so I can binge the VODs. Couldn't resist. Nice. Binge. 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 To propitiate your streaming god, I require views. Subscribe and like the stream, lest I curse you unto the generations. There is a hell, and I will take you there, unless you hit the bell, so that you get all notifications when I go live. I'm tickled by that. I like the idea of a god threatening hell for not subscribing. Can you rely, Ayub says, can you rely on color to give contrast to your pieces even if the values are the same? Or should I always check my values to make sure that I'm getting the best separation even if I want to use only vibrant color? No, color can do a lot on its own. Color is very powerful. Value helps, but color really can. You need to compensate for it, you know. What you're talking about there is akin to an art trick, right? Like an art magic trick. So you're gonna have to work for it, but it's totally possible. Thoughts on daily drawing as a hobbyist? I really enjoy it, but have heard mostly bad things about it. Thanks for the stream. If you enjoy it, it's not gonna do any harm. The only kind of daily drawing that would ever harm anybody is if they're forcing it. It's like, it's not for everybody, right? Like daily is not gonna be everybody's rate. You know, it's just not gonna align with with everybody's temperament or schedule. But if it aligns with your temperament and your schedule and you can do it happily, what's the problem? Go for it. Who cares what other people say? It's about enjoyment. If you're having fun, you have nothing to worry about. If anybody's out there sort of pushing back against drawing every day, they're not pushing back against the people who are drawing every day for fun and who are having fun. They're pushing back against the people who are drawing every day because they feel forced to, or like they're supposed to, and they're hating their way through it. I gotta up-res this. 3,000 pixels wide. Let's go 5K. I have not had lunch yet. It's well past my lunchtime, but I'm not hungry yet, so let's see how long I can keep going before the hunger demon strikes. That up-res mode did not please me. Made it look a little odd. It's because I did that. I painted most of it with all those very hard edges. Let's see. Bicubic smoother. That looks gross too. Preserve details 1. Jesus. All right, whatever. It'll have to do. Iman says, hey Steven, I finally found the last art fundamental. What is it? Is it getting fucking baked when you draw? What voice was that? I don't know what voice that was. What is the use of those composition templates that everybody is using? I can't understand how they use them. I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, Yankee, no problem. The composition grids, are they called grids? Are you talking about stuff like this? Like that grid, the rule of thirds grid? They're just, don't worry about them. That's what I say. For particular applications, they can sort of be scaffolds that you can hang your thinking off of, but they're not absolutes. I don't believe in stuff like the golden ratio being real or anything like that. I'm not saying that it's not an actual repeating thing in nature, right? It is, but it's not, you know, inherently aesthetic, right? If I pulled up a grid right now, if I pulled up a page, a Photoshop file that had 100 rectangles on it of all different shapes and sizes, and one of them was the golden ratio, do you really think you would naturally pick the one that's the golden ratio? Of course not. People would pick all sorts of different rectangles. That stuff isn't, it's not as robust as some people would want you to think. Again, that doesn't mean it's not useful as a scaffold to hang your thinking off of. But you don't have to, if you don't get it, you don't have to sit there worrying about it and scratching your head about it. Don't forget about it, you know? If it becomes relevant later in your career, it'll become relevant. I never use them. The one that I use most often, which I showed on this stream, the one that's most useful to me is one that no one uses. I showed it on screen just what, like a half hour ago. I did this. I broke my picture into quadrants. Nobody does that. Everybody does rule of thirds. So it's just whatever's useful to you. Is quadrants even one of the preset grids in Photoshop? Yeah, there isn't even a quadrants preset in Photoshop. There's only rule of thirds, so just don't worry about it. Does the golden ratio truly appear in nature as often as people say it does? I have some doubts, admittedly. From my understanding, it does occur a lot in nature, but it's not for any mystical reason. It's because it's, you can actually just Google this and get this has been known for a long time, but it's an irrational, that is to say non-repeating number, and it's like one of the lowest ones. So for example, if a plant is growing, and let's assume a perfectly vertical plant, a perfectly vertical stem, if you look at it from above, it needs to space out its leaves so that each leaf doesn't occlude the light that's reaching the leaf below it, right? Which is a common, all plants have that biological consideration. They need to arrange their foliage such that all the leaves, because leaves are expensive, they cost water and minerals and all of that, all the leaves need to be exposed to ideally complete sunlight. They should be not shaded at all. So by natural selection and just by needing to have the leaves occlude, the phi is like I said, I'm not super versed in this, but it's especially math, it's a non-repeating number. So if they arrange their leaves in a spiral in the phi ratio, they will never overlap each other perfectly. And so that will maximize exposure to the sun. That is not because phi is magical, that is a constraint of the needs of a plant, right? And then there's other biological things, that's why a sunflower, you see the seeds laid out in that way, things like that. Shady says it's a way to use space optimally, like a growth algorithm. Yes, like it could be that. Like I said, I'm not saying these aren't useful ways to arrange your thinking, right? A scaffold for your thinking. If you use this non-repeating ratio to organize a picture, yeah, it'll always give you another box to put something in, but anything could do that, right? Like there maybe repetition isn't your focus, but there's all sorts of, honestly, arbitrary geometric scaffolds that you could lay onto a picture that would make it feel like it had more intention behind it than it may, and that will communicate to the viewer and be beneficial. I totally am with all that. I get that. What I'm trying to say is that it's not inherently aesthetic. It's not inherently superior. Like I said, and I think everybody here, even without running the experiment, knows it's true. If I showed you a PSD that had 100 rectangles on it of all different ratios, it would basically come down to essentially chance. Are you going to pick the golden ratio? The golden ratio rectangle is not going to jump out to you as more beautiful than the other rectangles. Hold on, just checking something. My school preaches the principles of design so much, I kind of hate it now for some reason. I'm a fan of the principles of design, but again, like everything that I talk about on here, it's all meant to be carried lightly. Like, people get far too serious about things. Like, I love the principles of design. I've wanted to make a course about the principles of design for a long time, but they're not, none of this stuff is actually rules. None of it is laws. It's ways to arrange your thinking that give you useful organizations. You know, they're not inherent qualities. You know, nothing is. You know, they're just. It's all based on human perception, and human perception is subjective. You know, you don't see raw data. You perceive an edited, biased version of the world. So none of that stuff can be solid. It can't be laws. It can't be rules. You use it while it's useful, and then the second it stops being useful, you frickin' drop it. Perhaps something can be said about the importance or significance of the golden ratio regardless. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know, you're never gonna get it from me. I just don't believe, you know? It's okay to get it elsewhere and to play that game in other contexts. I don't, whatever anybody's practice is, I'm fine with that. You know, it's art. It's very open-ended, but you're not going to get any great love for the ratios from me. It's all too, it all gets too, again, I complain about this all the time, but it's doing the thing again where it's like, it's elevating, making this higher power out of like the mind in the art context, and it's just ignoring the naturalism of drawing. It's ignoring the fact that drawings are made by the body as well as the mind, but people don't even, they'll go whole art careers not talking about the body, paying attention to the body, realizing that the body is the one that's doing this. It's like all these just head games, and just people wonder why art makes them crazy. The golden ratio, all the ratios, but it's not like there's one ratio. That's just like the one that, there's other ratios, there's tons of ratios. I mean, if you can pick up a different book, right? I could name a couple, but I won't because I don't want to shit talk these people, but you can pick up a different book that you just haven't read yet that explains that it's actually the harmonic progressions of musical chords translated to visual breakups. That is the inherent objective path to aesthetic shapes, lines, whatever the fuck. These people can project it on anything. That's one of these problems. It's unfalsifiable, because I could put the golden ratio on a picture of a dog pooping and the spiral will probably land on some interesting part, and it's unfalsifiable. Someone who believes in the golden ratio in a deep sense will say, well, the dog took a shit that way because it's a natural occurring inherent mystical quality of the world. Like, that's the golden ratio was why dogs shit in that position. It's like, bro. So you just haven't read the book that makes the argument that it's inherently the translation of the progression of musical chords, which are before math and the cosmos. Again, just crazy concepts translated to visual progression. It's the same thing. You just haven't read that one. But that one makes the same case that that's the inherently aesthetic ratio breakup. It's numerology. It's the same thing as numerology. You know, people seeing, you show them a random sequence of numbers, the Bible code or something like that, and they're like, all right, well, the first letter in each sentence of each paragraph of this chapter of the Bible, if I translated it to a cipher this way, it tells me that angels are coming on May 35th. It's the same thing. It's numer-fucking-ology. And like I said, the golden ratio is interesting as science to me. To me, it's interesting as science. Like I said, the fact that it's the first non-repeating sequence that a plant trying to distribute its leaves such that they will not occlude each other's light, that's fascinating to me. That's interesting. I'm having a mystical acid trip over that. It's not interesting to me in art. It just isn't. I don't find it interesting, and I don't see how you could ever, if you tried to prove the golden ratio was more beautiful, apples to apples, like I said, the PSD test with all the rectangles, is just assured that you're just gonna prove that it's not inherently more aesthetic. If it was, you don't think, why is your phone not phi? This is all you see when you're shopping, right? Just the black rectangle, the basic ratio. They're not phi. Apple, Samsung, all of the, you don't think they would have landed on, oh, if we just make them phi, everyone will have to buy ours because they're hopelessly aesthetically attracted to that rectangle rather than others? Fuck no. You don't think they're incentivized to invest billions of dollars into doing it that way if it's real? It's numerology, it's nonsense. It's an important subject, but overrated sometimes. Is it important? Is it? Because if it is important, if it actually does all the things that people will ascribe to it, then you're automatically fucking doing it without thinking about it anyway, right? So even if it is true, you get it for free because your brain's golden ratio, your hands are golden ratio, every line you sketch is accidentally accruing towards the golden ratio. It's like, don't worry about it. Like I said, you lay it over any photo, you'll find some that's lining up somewhere, right? It's like, it'll happen automatically. Does it matter? We don't know if it matters. Again, in the absolute sense, Leonardo was pretty into it, and Isaac Newton was into alchemy. So, I don't give a fuck that Leonardo found it interesting. It doesn't change the base fact, the base assertion of ratio absolutus, that again, as a game, as a useful scaffold for pictures, I absolutely agree with that. But the idea that it's inherently more aesthetic is unfalsifiable, and I don't think it's true. And Fractathis gives me $20. What is the song of this swamp creature's people? Which is weird because they talk like, but then when they sing, they go, thank you for the $20, Fractathis, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Before I merge that down, let me make a copy of my base here, because that might be useful later. Hello, my love. I know you're so hungry for your lunch, but I'm not done drawing yet. Come here. Come say hello. They're all very worried about you because you were sick. Oh, yes. Say hello. Say hello, sweet F dog. Why do you hate being up here so much? It's like she knows she's on camera. She's like, I do not like this. Get me out of here. I am gonna start getting off of here because I'm getting hungry. By my standards, it is important in the sense that it apparently repeats in nature, and that fact isolated from spirituality or mathematics fascinates me. Yeah, I agreed with that. I said that. I find it interesting scientifically. As I said, I find the fact that plants do that and why they do that, I find that fascinating. It's a beautiful thing to know and to realize, but I just don't. For the people who do it, it's like the art practice can be anything. Like, it's okay to involve numerology in your art practice. I just can't go there. I don't go there. I don't find it compelling or interesting at all. And I don't, just because plants do it, I don't, why does it need to be in a flat 2D picture of a swamp creature? It doesn't need to, I don't make the jump that other people do there. But it's okay that other people do, because art practices are just structuralist. They can be anything. And for me, I just see it as those people are including some sort of like personal spiritual interest in ratios, and this sort of like numerological interest in ratios into their work. But that's a personal thing. It's not inherent. It's not actual. And my view accommodates them. Unfortunately, a lot of them, their view doesn't accommodate me, right? People on the other side they don't see it that way. They say, no, it is inherent, it is objective, and no, I'm not, this isn't just for me, this is real, and it objectively makes my work better. It's like, all right, put the gun down. We could talk about this. Do you believe the more people disconnect with nature, we will develop different attractions to more artificial compositions that can't be found in nature since people will forget about it? I mean, that's a very broad statement. Just philosophically speaking, I think everything depends on everything else. Like, I believe everything is utterly contingent on everything else. So any change in one thing, I think will inherit, like any change in like disconnection from nature. That's a pretty big statement, right? It would have to change something. I don't know if it would change it in that way, but just because we're talking about the ratios and stuff like that as well, I think visual perception is much more complicated than people understand. And they get very hung up on ideas of raw visual perception, mathematics, things like that. And they don't pay attention to how much of our attraction to composition, how much our visual perception is mediated by emotional states, biases, pre-processing edits that we've developed over years of making art or going through some other experience like that. There's a lot to talk about there, but I think all of that stuff makes it so that there's no absolutes that can be said. All right, a few more scales and then I'll get off. My dog is getting pissed. She wants her lunchtime treat, her real treat, not her stupid joint supplement. Goodbye, Wes. Oh, happy to help Flagella. Flogella? Flogella? Glad you're drawing again. Aisha W with the $10. Thank you so much. I draw more realistic, but Steven is a concept artist and therefore thinks like a concept artist, and ideas are unnatural and bound by no rules and guides, or only the ones he wants. I appreciate it. Yes. That was some very cool shit to say about me, Aisha. Thanks. Sometimes there's no other way to take a compliment but to just flat out say, hey, that was some cool shit to say about me, thanks. Thank you for the $10. I will transmute it into some kind of caffeinated beverage very soon, along with the donation from previously in stream. Previous donation. I joined in late today, super warm, so I feel dead to do anything. It's hard in the heat. I struggle with the heat. I know what you're getting at. I have same problem with gesture and shape design as you described with golden ratio. It can help, but if I design around it, sometimes it just doesn't work and something completely opposite works instead. Yeah, you gotta leave your options open. You can't be trapping yourself in binds. Don't want to give him a little crest like that. Forget golden ratio, embrace red diamond. Yeah, embrace the red diamond ratio. The only ratios I care about are red diamond ratios. My dog is so mad. I hear her doing passive-aggressive sighs. Saman is watching double speed to catch up. I'm 9 minutes behind. Let's see if you can catch up before I get off to go eat lunch. Wow, someone's sending me a lot of hearts. You love to see it. Maybe more green around the membranes here. Just doing a little color test like this early on can be a good way to see if how you need to switch the values. Like trying to do some kind of colorization method will let you know what's too light, what's too dark to get the colors you want, and then you can continue painting and make those corrections. Continue painting in black and white and make those corrections. What the? Dude, where'd my hard round? Oh, there it is. How detailed do you make your grayscale before putting down color? And does the overpainting you do at the end just a cherry on top, or is it the whole process? If I know I want it to be color, I try not to spend too long in grayscale. Because that particular process of doing it black and white and then turning it into color, when you're in black and white, you're doing tons of guessing. You're just guessing how the final color is going to come out. And I find that just winds up taking longer in the end. So I'll use the gray as a base, but I'll try to get out of the gray as fast as possible, and get to dealing with the picture in color as early as I can. All right, there's not much I can do here, sort of rushing and going fast right now, so I am not going to. Let's just say we're gonna leave it like this, and maybe we will come back to this one later. Because it's about lunchtime for old SB. You know, I gotta mess with my color lookups before I go, always. Ooh, that's nice. That two-strip gives it a kind of, the little color spot, a cool green cast. The green against the red. Always reminds me of like Tom Lavelle's illustration work. What the hell just happened? Okay. Two-strip, three-strip. Bleach bypass always looks good for monsters. Oh, Candlelight looking quite good. I like that value compression on Candlelight. I like how it rescales the specular on the right side of the face. The diffuse reflection gets really dark and then the specular pops off a lot, which makes sense for a wet creature. See there, the specular is less intense, the diffuse is more pushed. But then there, the diffuse gets really dark. Yeah, when I look at it in thumbnail, it's giving me that really compressed cinematic feeling. It's getting a little screenshotty. Not big, not once you see it's not resolved, but tiny. You see how tiny? It's giving that initial impression of screenshot. At least for me, it's getting there. I like that. I like Candlelight. I like what Candlelight's doing a lot. Let's, but I opened this to check out, ooh, Foggy Night, not bad. a little too compressed, a lot of information being lost, but very horror, very spooky. But I came here for sunset, late sunset, because this is a sunset shot. It doesn't look very good. I was hoping that would feel more sunsetty, but a real nice sunset with this stuff is a pain in the ass because sunset does make everything very red-orange, but you still get some local color variation, and this has a lot of materials. There's trees, which have the bark, maybe grayer, browner. It's a swamp, so the barks probably have a lot of variation on them, like moss and lichen, so there's some greens. The water is gonna be kind of reflecting the sunlight color wherever it's specular, but then it's gonna get earthier and greener where you look down into it. It's gonna have shadows on it. And then there's the creature itself, which has like the shell, the scales, the skin, the web parts that have a lot of light transmission going on are warmer. So this general pass is not really looking much like a sunset. I would need to go in there and sort of manually separate out all those different materials with respect to the reddening of sunset. So that's a pain in the ass. Which makes me think it might be nicer to just let everything get washed out in this horror movie candlelight feel. Candlelight looking pretty dope right now. By the way, for anyone who's never used Color Lookup before, you can load your own LUTs into Color Lookup. They're, for people who don't know, all modern cameras, not modern cameras, not every modern camera, but like anyone who's using a cinema camera or a high-end like prosumer camera, any movie that you watch is shot in a particular recording format called log. And raw log footage compresses the contrast of what's being recorded insanely, severely. The footage looks odd, like it's all covered in powder or something like that. And the reason for that is that it makes it so that things don't blow out and things don't crunch. There's a lot of because it's so low contrast and because of the math that's running, there's a lot of detail in the shadows, a lot of detail in the light. And then that allows a professional color grader to balance everything how they want instead of having so much be restricted by the footage, in the sense that like a film stock, you know, if you're shooting a movie, shooting on Fuji film stock, Kodak film stock, the same shot's gonna look slightly different based on the chemical exposures. So modern movies and TV shows are shot in log, which is very compressed. And then what we're playing with here, these different looks, you see .look, .cube, .3dl, these are LUTs, these are lookup table files. And this is what a color grader will start with on log footage. So they will put a basic LUT on the log footage, and that will make it look normal. That will make it look like what you would expect out of a camera, and then they will tweak the knobs from there. So you can load any LUT they sell them online, you know, for people who grade color footage. You can get packs of, here's a bunch of LUTs, lookup tables for sunset, for sunrise, you know, poppy look, modern look, you know, they brand them like anything. But you can load them into Photoshop, and then you don't have to be stuck with just the base set here. You can load in an infinite number of LUTs to try out. The only problem is that Photoshop isn't really made for that or focused on that. So I don't do that. I've bought LUTs before, but the thing is they don't stay in the menu. So every time you open Photoshop, you have to reload the LUTs, and I just find that too annoying. So I just stick with the standard LUTs, the lookup tables that are preloaded in Photoshop. If you did want a better workflow for it, you could send your pictures to something like Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve, where you can save your lookup tables, because that's where it's in video footage. In video programs, that's where color grading is generally actually done. So you can put it in Premiere and then have a better workflow there to mess with things and to test things. But I should also note that this is never going to look great. It's never gonna look perfect, and it's actually gonna kind of damage the info in your picture, because when a color grader puts a LUT on log footage is of like, it's shot in like 10-bit. I believe it's 10-bit, where we work 8-bit on 2D pictures. That means that there's a lot of color and value information in the footage that isn't visible to the eye, and that's what gives it a great flexibility to be pushed much lighter, much darker, have certain colors pulled out and things like that. And we don't paint that way. We paint in much smaller data spaces, 8-bit. So a LUT doesn't have quite as nice effect on a painting as it ever will on actual log footage, which has all of this hidden information inside of it, just for anyone who's curious. I just want to explain what color lookup is. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave that at the top of the folder to remind me that maybe I want to push it in that direction. That's kind of a cool value in color zone. I don't know about color lookup, that's neat, it's great. Especially if you need to get particular moods across really quick for like clients and stuff like that. It's very abusable. And you know, I've saved pictures before, like I've had time of day changes come in for renders, like outdoor scenes and things like that. I'm thinking of one in particular, a really complicated painting I had to do for a client. Had waterfalls and trees and people and all these buildings and stuff like that. And it was supposed to be painted in basically just like broad daylight, just like morning or light afternoon light. And I worked the whole thing up like that. And then they changed their mind. The show that it was depicting, this was for a real world environment. It was for a theme park. It was a shot of a show. And in the programming, they changed it now so this show is a sunset show. It's supposed to be, when you're working in theme parks and real world environments, there's a lot of real world considerations. So now, if this is ostensibly a picture of that show, you can't make this picture not at sunset because the show is only possible at sunset, right? Based on the lights, how they want to use the water jets, things like that. So I remember I specifically saved myself from having to repaint that picture from scratch because that's a huge change. That changes everything to go from daylight to sunset. I saved myself having to repaint it from scratch with the sunset color lookup. Obviously, I still had a lot of work to do, but just running that LUT was enough to those color ranges trigger in the eye of the client. Well, yeah, that's sunset now. It was a base, you know, it was still all fucked up and I had to do a ton of work on it after, but it saved me from having to redo it from scratch. Could you have done this traditionally? If so, what tools would you use? It looks really good with that lighting like a movie. Well, the thing is, no one has to do this stuff traditionally anymore. If I was just trying to run this process on a traditional painting, I would just take a picture of the painting, put it in Photoshop, and then fuck around with color lookup. And then if I found a look that I really liked, I would just pull that up on my iPad as a reference and I would try to make the traditional painting move towards that. If you're speaking mechanically, how would you do this? You'd probably only be able to make such a big change with oil paint where you can glaze. You probably are such a big transformation, like from that to that, is probably impossible in acrylic, gouache, things like that. It's like you could do it, but all you're doing is basically repainting. You just happen to be repainting over the base. Probably only oils could you make such a change while preserving your work, and you would do that by glazing, heavy glazing work. And in that case, it could take many weeks to many months to make the changes because glazes take a long time to dry. All right, guys, now I'm really gonna go. I got caught up on just I don't know, I find that stuff interesting. I'm a commercial artist, and you know, I've spent a lot of time investigating the technicals of digital work techniques and stuff like that. So I find that stuff interesting. Maybe some of you find that interesting. Maybe that gives you guys some inspiration to try. You know, Photoshop has great tools, but some of you, have you ever tried editing the colors in your painting using the color grading tools in a video editing software instead? I've tried it, and there's some things that you can really only do there that you can't do in Photoshop. So maybe there's some ideas for you guys to play around with there. But now I'm gonna go because I'm hungry and my canker sore is killing me because it is rubbing up against one of my teeth. That's where it just happens to be right there. and every word that I speak, my tooth is scraping against it, and I've been ranting too much. So it's really hurting me. So I'm gonna go. Peace, everybody. Have you ever tried painting in linear color space? You can actually transform the file to emulate different camera profiles in DaVinci. Sounds dumb, but I'm dumb. If by linear color space, do you mean, I know like in Krita, you can change things so that you can technically paint in HDR. If that is what you mean, I tried to set that up once, but I was unsuccessful. I couldn't get it to work. If by linear color space you mean something else, no, I haven't tried it, but I'm curious. Sounds interesting. Oh no, Warrington says, damn, just realized I have a canker sore as well. Sorry. I hate to have brought that to your attention. All right, everybody, goodbye to Pao Wu, the Flurinator, Manuel, M3 Arts, Warrington Fieselfie, Mr. Soon, Matej Koyer, Nihal, I Nocturne, Aki, Charlie, Clara Bates, Unknown, Chris Maycock, Babs, and all the others who are here. I can help, yes, and Krita. Okay, so it might have been that. It might have been that HDR kind of a thing. Yeah, I tried it once before and I hit some technical snag. I was following the tutorial, but I couldn't quite get it to work. And I don't know why. I'm just gonna stay on for a second longer while I make the thumbnail, because I always have to do this anyway. At least when I remember to do it. It's like, if you want the thumbnails to reflect what's in the stream, unfortunately, I haven't made the picture yet. So it kind of forces me that it can only be, the thumbnail can only be accurate once the stream is done. This one I feel like I really want to come back to. I feel like this glimpse of that that particular color cast, like it's really grayed out, but there's still a little bit of green, a little bit of blue, a little bit of orange. I really like the way that looks. I really want to come back to this one and try to push it a little farther. I'm still going. I just can't stop making art. What else? Check out the Patreon. I got weird stuff on there. And the course is on sale. The info is right underneath me. And that's it. That's all I got for y'all. Peace, everybody. Thank you for being here. Goodbye, everyone.